Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we got another Mach-E video, so stay tuned and let's get started. All right, we are out driving the Mach-E. Just want to give some impressions driving here. Probably the first thing to really talk about is it's pretty quick. It's not too shabby. That was just to get up to 40 to get over a couple lanes so I can turn around here. This is the all-wheel drive model, standard range battery. It is not the GT, but it's still pretty quick. I think it's rated at 0 to 60, 5.2 seconds. 266 horsepower and 428 foot-pounds of torque. If you get the extended range battery, all-wheel drive, that gives you more horsepower. But it gives you the same torque, which is kind of interesting. So like when you just step on the gas and get thrown into your seat, that's going to be about the same. I think where you're going to notice that extra horsepower difference is like once you get above 35-40 miles an hour, and your RPMs are up higher, that's where you're going to notice having more power. And that one, it's quoted 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds. What's interesting though is the standard range one actually is lighter because there's less cells, battery cells, and so its in-town EPA estimate is actually slightly better because it's hauling around less weight. I'll put the exact weight in there, but I want to say it's around 300 pounds. So if you're strictly doing mostly in-town driving on the daily, then I think it's a pretty good way to go with getting the standard range. It's still quick. It's going to be pretty much just as quick in that 0 to 30, 0 to 40 range. The efficiency is going to be a little bit better because you're in town, and you're hauling less weight around. And if you're charging at slower speeds, like if you're charging on a level 1 or level 2, you're going to actually be able to charge up faster because the battery is smaller. It's not until you get into the DC fast charging where the bigger pack is going to be able to take in more power. But let's go back and let's talk about what this is like to drive. How's the ride quality? How does it feel behind the wheel? The answer is it's all very good. I think right off the bat, the ride quality is good. You feel very planted on the road. The suspension leans slightly more towards firm than soft. Some reviewers have used the word bouncy when they're describing how this rides, and I think I would tend to agree with that. If you're in town on some, bumpier roads, especially if you're going through an intersection or making a left turn in an intersection, and you've got like an asphalt road that hasn't been paved for a while, and so you've got some kind of ruts and grooves, and you're going to start driving over those and kind of go bump, bump, bump. And that's where you really start to feel the bounciness. I think Ford has tuned the suspension really well to slightly favor a better driving, performance-based experience. And so you're going to trade off that bounciness a little bit. I think they made the right choice. The best part is there's very little body roll when you're going into a turn. Like if you're on a 30-35 mile an hour road and you've got the signs that say, hey, the yellow signs that's, say turns coming up, they recommend 20-25 miles per hour instead, and you don't slow down for that. You just take the turn. I think a lot of SUVs these days, you're going to get that lean, that body roll, and I am not a big fan of that. That's actually one of the main reasons why I don't enjoy driving SUVs. But the Mach-E has very little of that, actually. Now, a standard Mustang or, you know, a sports sedan, sports coupe type vehicle is going to have even less, obviously. But I think the Mach-E is very good. It doesn't have very much. I think there's two main reasons for that. One is the suspension tuning that we talked about. And then the other is just it being an electric car and where the weight is. You've got two motors, one over the front, one over the back, and you've got a big battery that's in the floor, or rather under the floor. And so you've got all this weight pretty evenly distributed and very down low. And so that really helps, you know, take out kind of a top heavy leaning feel when you're cornering. But yeah, it feels very good going around corners. I can say that I would enjoy driving this SUV on corners. It's kind of fun, and I don't think that's something you would say very often for a typical SUV. We're going to be merging onto the freeway here, and we're going about 45 right now. I got some traffic, so I'm going to merge in here. We're up to 65 there. And I mean, electric cars being fast, I think, you know, kind of ever since Tesla came along and showed everybody that a production electric car that the masses can buy can be exciting, it can be fast, it can be nice inside, especially the fast piece. I mean, I think that's pretty much, if you're buying an electric car today and it's not very fast, then that's kind of a disappointment. They're all so quick now. Like that box should automatically get checked off if you're buying an electric car now. Let's see, we're on the interstate now. We're going about 71 miles an hour. Going by some trucks, so you can hear there's a little more road noise. But yeah, let's talk about BlueCruise a little bit more. I'll overlay the experience a little bit, but kind of talking you through it. It engages very easily. You pretty much just have to be looking ahead, have to be in a BlueCruise mapped highway, which most of the interstates are. And there are certain sections maybe where if there's a Y or there's a lot of merging going on, where they've unmapped that section, and it won't fully disengage, but it'll disengage hands-free mode, and then it wants you to put your hands back on the wheel. But if you're not in one of those areas, it engages right away. I have to manually do any kind of lane changes, but it is doing radar cruise, lane keep, and then it's doing eye tracking. So it's making sure I'm looking ahead. I'm actually looking at the road. Like if I look down at the gauges or I look up too high, it'll start beeping and tell me to watch the road, or if I'm looking at the infotainment. Overall, it does a great job at keeping the car centered. Some of the reviewers will say, oh, you know, it puts the driver in the center of the road. It doesn't put the car in the center of the road. And I mean, if you look at the side view mirrors, I mean, it's dead center. Some other folks have talked about this like ping pong effect, where it's kind of finding and hunting the edges and bouncing back. That is something I have experienced, but it only does it one or two times, and it doesn't do it every time. So if you start out left in the lane and turn it on, the car will kind of drift a little past center over towards the right. It's almost like, I just really want to make sure that line's there, and then I'll bounce back, and then I'm good. It's almost like it's got an itch, and it's just got to scratch it. It's got to get that scratch in. So it's kind of weird. It's like, yeah, like, why do you need to do that? But I'm sure that's something they'll revise and make better with updates. But overall, pretty happy with the BlueCruise experience. You know, the gauge cluster doesn't really show you anything super interesting. It'll show you when there's a car in front of you, and it'll tell you when it's in hands-free. It'll tell you if it's picking up the lanes. But other than that, it doesn't really tell you a lot. I have no idea if the computer knows if the truck that's driving by me right now, I have no idea if it knows it's there. I know the cameras can see it, but I don't know if the software knows that. So like if you're gonna pass a semi or something, and you usually give yourself a little extra space, maybe if you're passing on the left, you know, you maybe move even a little further left. You know, so maybe they'll program stuff like that into BlueCruise. But again, I don't know if the software is capable to recognize that there's a truck next to you. The lane change feature, I mean, that has to be capable, but like the current software that I'm running, does it have any idea about what's left and right, or does it only know what's in front of me? I don't know. So I think the Ford vision and radar, and it's a little more of a mystery of how good it really is. I think Tesla's display is very clear in showing you exactly what it's seeing and not seeing, where in here it's a little more of a mystery. Speed limit's up a little higher here. Got an 80 mile an hour speed limit here, so I just set it to 82. Now this is where BlueCruise will disengage, so it'll keep doing radar cruise and lane keep, but not hands-free. And so if I go down to, I think I have to go down to 80 to get the hands-free to re-engage. It'll let you go to 81 and it'll keep hands-free engaged, like if you're going to pass somebody, but it won't let you, if it disengages for any reason, you have to go back to 80 or below for it to re-engage. You can hear there's a little more wind noise, a little more road noise here, but still overall a pretty reasonable volume level in here, I would say. We're braking here. I'll show this one on the screen too, but you know, that whole brake experience there, we regened almost all of that. I would not call that a hard brake by any means, but it was fairly aggressive, and we were able to regen all that, so that's pretty cool. Not really using the friction brakes at all. Something else I'll mention is, we talked about the volume at high speed. The volume in here at lower speeds, what's really interesting is they've done a great job at doing a lot of noise reduction, a lot of sound isolation in here, between the glass, the weather seals, underneath the car, you know, wheel wells, the back part, the center, upper part. There's like this like thick fabric, kind of stiff fabric that's in there that helps absorb noise. A lot of newer cars are doing that now. Definitely helps. What's interesting is all that stuff, all this sound deadening and stuff, it does a great job at mid and high frequencies, but it does not do a good job at low frequencies. And so if you're driving this car, you know, especially because you don't really have any engine noise, you've got some electric motor whir, but you don't have any engine noise. So you don't really have much low-end sound except what's coming from the road. So you get a lot of low-end sound when you're going over bumps. If you've got speakers you're listening to this on, here I'll hit this bump, or headphones, that should come out pretty clearly. I do have some bottles rattling back there too, but there's just a lot of low-end sound that you pick up with this. It's like somebody put a low-pass filter and took everything else out. And so at the higher freeway speeds, you don't really notice that because you get those higher sounds coming back in because it's loud enough to kind of balance out. But at these low speeds, like 20 to 30, maybe 35 miles an hour, you get a lot of low-end bass just from the road. And to be honest, I find that a little bit annoying. It's kind of like you put on noise-canceling headphones, but you still got a lot of bass from your surroundings. So, not a big fan of that. I don't know if there's really much they can do about it. It's kind of hard to deaden that type of sound with just fabrics and stuff. They probably have to do some kind of active cancellation with the stereo system or the audio system, but you know, that has its own problems and can sound weird or feel weird. So I don't know about that. All right, well, that concludes the video today on the driving experience in BlueCruise. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or other things you'd like to see, leave it in the comments below, and maybe I'll make another video. So take care, and we'll see you next time.